First, let's remember where this whole thing started. On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas carried out the worst terrorist attack in Israel's history. Israel has the right to self-defense, but what we see in practice from Israel goes beyond self-defense. We have made this very clear in recent weeks. Blocking food and medicine for Palestinians trapped in Gaza does not protect Israel. Bypassing UN aid deliveries does not help the people. It undermines decades of humanitarian principles. The humanitarian situation is deteriorating. Three warehouses were recently opened in Gaza, but only one is now accepting new deliveries. At every single opportunity, I have called on my Israeli counterpart to let the aid flow and allow aid organizations to operate freely. You must ask the same. Reports last night that Israeli forces killed over 50 Palestinian people waiting for flour in Gaza aid site are beyond shocking. Every day this war continues, humanity slips further away. Enough is enough. A month ago, Israel also began an offensive in Gaza. Operation Gideon's Chariots has involved a disproportionate use of force, the continued targeting of civilian infrastructure, and unacceptable death toll. 90% of people living in the Strip have already been displaced. Those who remain are entirely dependent on aid, which isn't coming in. Israel's stated objective is to take control over the entire Gaza Strip. Altering, reducing or annexing territory is a direct violation of international law. Should all or parts of Gazan civilian population be permanently forced from their homes, this too would be a violation of international law. We must call it as such. The West Bank, in parallel, is in a state of chaos. Israel Defense Forces are dismantling Palestinian terrorist networks and terrorism is declining. But settler violence is increasing. This isn't logical if terrorism is to blame for settler violence. Intimidation campaigns, physical and verbal attacks, and the destruction and burning of property and homes are leading to the displacement of entire Palestinian communities. This is outright lawlessness. Israel must come face to face with its own extremists. And what is happening in the West Bank threatens the formation of a Palestinian state and peace for the region in the long run. Honourable members, as the European Union, our job is not to lament, but to ask ourselves what we have in our power to do in response. 3 points. First, we must put the pressure on Israel. Last month, a majority of EU foreign ministers supported a review of the association agreement and Israel's compliance with Article 2. Article 2 imposes binding obligations on the parties to observe human rights. When we started the review, humanitarian aid had been blocked from entering Gaza 11 weeks straight. The review is being conducted as we speak. Next Monday, we will discuss the review. I will also brief EU leaders at the European Council a few days later. I know that there are many outspoken voices here, but I have to underline that whatever happens, these are ultimately the choices for the member states to take. We will move together as a union. Second, we do everything we can possibly to alleviate suffering. The European Union is the largest international donor to Palestinian people. Our humanitarian funding for this year alone is €170 million. And since October 2023, the EU has helped transport close to 5,000 tons of humanitarian cargo to Gaza. I've said this many times now, including to my Israeli counterpart. The answer to threats of aid being weaponized is not to block the aid, but to flood the region with so much aid it cannot be misused. There is more than enough to do this. The amount of aid is not the problem, but the access is. Third, specifically on settlements. EU leaders have repeatedly condemned the Israeli government's decisions to expand illegal settlements across the occupied West Bank. We have urged Israel to reverse these decisions. The EU has also repeatedly condemned the ongoing extremist violence, settler violence in the West Bank, including in East Jerusalem. We have already adopted sanctions against 9 individuals and 5 entities responsible for serious human rights abuses against Palestinians. Discussions are ongoing on further sanctions against extremist settlers and against entities and organisations which support them, and against Hamas supporters. But we don't have unity yet, and this is something we should all push for. Honourable members, we must remember where this began. Israel has the right to exist and defend itself, but no one should live in terror. Our focus must be on where this can lead. Pressure must increase on the Israeli government. I will do this on my side, as I have repeatedly done. Likewise, we must use every avenue to pressure Hamas into handing over Gaza governance to the Palestinian Authority. A united Arab world can apply pressure here. And the European Union remains firmly committed to the two-state solution. The conference led by France and Saudi Arabia that was postponed from this week should take place. We need international mobilisation behind the two-state solution. The two-state solution is the right path and always will be. It is the only means for just and lasting peace for Israelis as well as the Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you very